The rainforests of Central and South America are full of spiders. Most of them are harmless, but there are quite a few you definitely would not want to get bit by. From a venomous spider that lurks in plain sight, to a cousin of the deadly Australian funnel webs, there are some scary bites out there that no one's talking about. And the worst of them might be able to stop your breathing for good. At the bottom of this list is a spider you might think looks familiar. Probably like, Spencer, that's a Brazilian wandering spider. What's it doing at the bottom of the list? And the truth is, this actually isn't a Brazilian wandering spider at all, but that's part of the reason why it belongs here. This is the bromeliad spider, and basically any of the characteristics you'd use to identify a dangerous wandering spider, this spider has too. All the biggest characteristics that set this guy apart from the ones that can actually kill you are pretty small details that only scientists are going to want to get close enough to see. General rule of thumb in the rainforest is if you see a large orange, tan, or yellow spider, probably best to keep your distance. Generally speaking, because this is a large spider, the bite is going to be pretty painful, but the actual severity is not usually any worse than like a major bee sting. Pain, swelling, and inflammation is about all you could expect. But the reason I wanted to keep this spider on this list is their venom is really interesting. It's not interesting in a it'll kill you or give you life-altering injuries kind of way. It's interesting because it actually teaches us a little bit about how spider venom works. We typically think of spiders having one of two types of venom: a neurotoxin that attacks the nervous system of their prey, or a cytotoxin like that of the brown recluse that actually destroys tissue and eats prey alive, melting them down to kill them. But it turns out that these bromeliad spiders have kind of a dual purpose venom. It does both. And there's a really neat reason why this works. See, we know neurotoxins attack nerves, but the way they actually do it is they usually will target receptors on the membrane of the nerve. It's easy to forget that nerves are cells, even if they're really weird cells. And like all cells, they have a membrane. And the way that nerves actually control their signaling is through charge gradients in their membrane. If a toxin can disrupt that membrane, it can affect the way the nerve sends signals. All cells have membranes, and if you have a toxin that can bind not just to nerve cell receptors, but any cell receptor, you can effectively paralyze and melt your prey at the same time. So when you're bitten by this spider, while it doesn't have the crazy flesh-rotting effects of the sand spiders or recluses, it actually is destroying tissue to some degree. This also helps us understand how spiders not only paralyze their prey, but also melt it down into a liquid form they can actually ingest. Next up, we have the bird-eating tarantulas, the biggest of which belong to the genus Theraphosa, which are called the Goliath bird-eaters. But turns out, throughout northern South America, there are a lot of genera of really massive bird-eating tarantulas. Now, I'm not about to reveal some crazy secret about their venom. The only tarantulas we know of that have venom that's seriously harmful to humans are some of the old world tarantulas in Asia and Africa. These bird-eating tarantulas are New World tarantulas, so typically their primary defense is going to be kicking off these really itchy, irritating hairs to get predators to back off. And while bird-eating tarantulas are definitely capable of taking down vertebrate prey, it's not because their venom is anything to write home about, it's just because these spiders are absolutely massive and can physically overpower vertebrate prey. The reason they're on this list isn't because of their venom, but because of everything else that happens in their bite. I've been bitten by a tarantula before, one of the smaller species we have in the US. The venom didn't do much at all, but those huge fangs did enough mechanical damage that I had a sore, swollen, bruised arm for almost a week. Let's scale that little tarantula up 5-10 times its size, and you can bet the size of those fangs scale with it. The bird eaters have such massive fangs, they can puncture deep into you during a bite. They have a higher venom yield, which is still going to cause pain and swelling, and they're living in burrows on the forest floor of tropical rainforests. There's tons of foreign bacteria living in the ground of these jungles, and you can bet that some of that bacteria is entering your wound as well when one of these giants bites you. When handling large tarantulas, I am just as cautious as I am when handling medically significant black widow spiders. Not because I think the spider can kill me, but because I know that if I am bitten, it's gonna be a pretty rough time. Fortunately, like most New World tarantulas, the bird eaters are not very keen on biting. It's one of the reasons they make really great pets, because the captive bred populations have these incredible, gorgeous colors, and these spiders are quite workable for your average keeper. They have the flashy looks of the Old World tarantulas, without the nasty venom. This next spider is actually related to the tarantulas. It's in the same suborder of the spider clade, known as the megalomorphs, or primitive spiders. But this one has a little bit of a freaky secret. See, the megalomorphs are actually a pretty big group, and there's a whole family tree within it of different spiders that are even more closely related. And while this spider is related to the tarantulas, it has a closer relative that is actually very dangerous, and that is the Australian funnel web. See, this spider is known as the Colombian Funnel Web because they build these crazy funnel-shaped wispy webs in the rock outcroppings and root structures they live in. This is the web of the Colombian Funnel Web. This is the web of the Sydney Funnel Web. The similarities that you see are not a coincidence. These spiders used to be grouped in the same exact family, but now they're just known to be sister families. I'd be wondering, why does this matter? And it matters because of the way that different traits are inherited through these evolutionary lineages. The Sydney Funnel Web and their relatives are considered to be among the most venomous spiders on Earth. And the reason being is their venom is particularly toxic to primates. Where your dog or cat could be bitten by a funnel web and probably just have some swelling, if you get bitten by a funnel web, you're going straight to the hospital because your life could be in danger. And while there are practically no bite reports from the Colombian funnel web that can verify what the spider can do, we do know from lab studies that their venom is quite toxic. It's up there with many of the black widow spiders. And while black widow spiders are not typically a fatal bite, they're not fun, and black widows are considerably smaller than Colombian funnel webs. With venomous bites and stings, the dosage makes the poison. How much venom you receive matters just as much as the toxicity of that venom. So if you have a spider that's basically as venomous as a black widow, but is capable of injecting more venom, it's not a huge leap to predict that these spiders can probably give you a pretty serious bite. And while we don't know for sure what the bite of the Colombian funnel web can do to you, I'll say for the record, I'm not sure I want to find out. Now it's getting real. This freaky looking spider is the Lykan wandering spider. As its name suggests, this is a true wandering spider, not a fake out like the bromeliad spider earlier. And this is one of those spiders I really wish there was more research into because these guys are gnarly. The wandering spiders in the genus Anoplotenus are some of the most insane ambush hunters in the rainforest. They sit sprawled out on trees, blending in with the lichen and moss that lines the tree trunk. And basically any insects climbing that tree are doomed. These guys are so camouflaged. With all those spiky protrusions and stuff coming off their exoskeleton, they are super hard to see. And these spiders are lightning fast. They're also very skittish, so I could actually see someone getting bitten if they're hiking and happen to put their hand too close to one of these spiders in the rainforest at night. Like most rainforest wandering spiders, we don't know a whole lot about their venom. Conventional wisdom is any large wandering spiders should be treated as if they're dangerously venomous. But for this group, you definitely should use a little bit more caution. And the biggest reason is because their venom was used in the development of the anti-venom for the deadly Brazilian wandering spider. To understand why this is important, we kind of need to know how anti-venom is made. To make anti-venom, you inject doses of venom into much larger animals that are not going to be killed by it. Their immune system reacts to that venom and creates antibodies for the venom, hence anti-venom. When you're bitten by something, you can be injected with anti-venom. Those antibodies will then bind to the venom proteins, and your body will recognize, oh, this is a foreign invader, I need to get rid of it. Which essentially helps your immune system fight off the venom a lot faster than your liver would. In order for an anti-venom to work, it has to target the actual proteins that are in the venom. See, venoms are not just these magic chemicals that kill you. They're cocktails of proteins. So if different spiders, like the Lykan wandering spider, can be used to manufacture anti-venom for their deadlier cousin, it stands to reason they have a lot of the same toxins that the Brazilian wandering spider has. Because these are smaller spiders, I wouldn't expect the bite to be fatal, but I'd have to imagine it would be sort of like a lesser version of a Brazilian wandering spider bite. Feverish symptoms, intense pain, and in guys, potentially priapism. Yeah, this Lykan wandering spider is probably a boner spider as well. But the Lykan wandering spider doesn't have much on our final entry. I'm not sure that these guys have a common name, but I'm going to call them the tropical fishing spiders. These are wandering spiders in the genus Ancylomydes. These guys used to be grouped in Tenidae with the other wandering spiders, but they actually got recently split into their own closely related family. So this is sort of a case of like the Colombian funnel web versus the Australian funnel web. Related spiders that are probably both dangerous. These guys get huge, and some of the species look, again, shockingly like Brazilian wandering spiders. There was only ever ever one bite report that I was able to find, and the guy said he just had a lot of pain that was localized. But cases like that exist for Brazilian wandering spiders too. Just because we have one case where the person didn't die doesn't mean the spider bite isn't dangerous. And the reason I wanted to have this spider at the top of the list is because we actually know a thing or two about how its venom works. And this is one of those spiders where I've seen it in the wild, and if I knew what I know now about this spider when I saw it in the field, I probably would have dedicated a whole video to it. The tropical fishing spiders are kind of like the fishing spiders you see in the US. They're able to hunt sitting on top of the water, reading vibrations below them, and they'll eat fish and frogs. These things not only can kill and eat vertebrates, they actively hunt vertebrates, which already means their venom is going to be a bit more attuned to attacking vertebrate physiology. But it gets more interesting than that. In the lab, we actually were able to test and see what symptoms this venom elicited in vertebrate victims. And it turns out it attacks the signaling pathways that control your diaphragm. Take a deep breath in. The muscle you just use is your diaphragm. At high doses, the venom of these tropical fishing spiders effectively disable the diaphragm. Now, because this is a spider that is still fairly understudied, we don't know how often this venom can go systemic with humans. We are much larger than the things they're typically eating. But if you got a full tank from one of these tropical fishing spiders and it was able to get into your lymphatic system and travel throughout your body, it's very possible that just like the fish and frogs they're eating, they could disable your ability to breathe. And I have a suspicion that the bite of this spider might be potentially life-threatening in the right conditions. But that's just a theory. A spider theory. Now, of course, a lot of this video is all just speculation. I'm going off of what little research we have on the venoms of these spiders. But environments like the Central and South American rainforests are some of the highest competition ecosystems in the entire world, meaning that if you are a venomous creature living in this habitat, it does serve you to be as toxic as possible. And that's the whole thing. These venoms are not really meant for us. They're meant for their prey, and they're meant as a defensive mechanism so that these spiders can survive in one of the most complex, challenging habitats on Earth. But spiders aren't the only venomous creatures that have risen to the challenge and produced some of the world's most potent toxins. Scorpions are pretty gnarly too. Normally, we think of dangerous scorpions as being from the desert. But I bet you didn't know that the Arizona bark scorpion was not the most dangerous scorpion on the North American continent. This one is. If you want to learn about the most venomous scorpion in all of North America, not just the US, check out this video right here. Hope to see you there, but until next time, don't forget to get outside and find your own adventure.